Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Star Wars Squadrons video, a game that you might have forgotten about because I haven't put it on the channel for a while and there hasn't been any big news for a little while. But we have got our latest pilot briefing and it is focused around customizing your starfighters, whether that's purely how it looks and how you make your starfighter unique to yourself, as well as functionality with ship components, which basically means the abilities that you're going to carry into battle with you. First off, with the ship components, you will be able to unlock these components for your starfighters by spending requisition points, which are points that you earn as you play. These components can be equipped to change how your ship functions in subtle or radical ways. Some components will be passive, such as reinforcing your defensive capabilities with different hulls or shield, so basically just buffing the health of your starfighter, whereas others, which is more like the abilities that I mentioned, will be more active, and rather than always being applied to your ship, they will be something that you can use during the battle a certain number of times. In total, there are up to 7 component slots, although a ship without a shield generator will only have 6, because as you will see, one of those components is shields. The rest are primary weapons, 2 auxiliaries, countermeasures, the hull and the engines. Now, starfighters can be equipped with up to 3 passive components and 4 active components. The first group of components provide active changes and they are more situational and can sometimes have a very significant impact on gameplay. The 3 types of active components are primary weapons, auxiliary components, of which there are 2 slots, which I mentioned a second ago, and countermeasures. Primary weapons are of course your starfighter's main cannons, and their components will change the functionality and performance of your weapons, so that can be simplified to mean your damage output and your rate of fire. A Star Wars Battlefront 2 example would be your A-Wing has a very high rate of fire for its blasters, however it doesn't do as much damage, while something like a Y-Wing does massive damage but has a very slow rate of fire, and then you've got the X-Wing, which is kind of a mix of both of them. There are even primary weapons that can more radically change the way your weapons work, such as ion cannons that will go through shield more effectively and can completely disable starfighters, so I assume that means that they can't then use their abilities, but it doesn't do much damage to the hull, so that's perfect for if you're coordinating with a team. Have one of you pick your ion cannons so you take all of the shield down of your enemies, and then have someone come in with regular powerful primary cannons to destroy the hull once they're exposed. Auxiliary components make up the next 2 slots, and these components make up your secondary abilities. The options here are more similar to the Battlefront 2 abilities, except they've added even more in here, because that could be adding a repair astromet to heal your hull, or tractor beams, or a variety of torpedoes, bombs and mines. And for these 2 slots you can only pick 1 of each component, so you can't have 2 astromechs on your starfighter, or 2 of the same missiles, which is their way of keeping gameplay balanced. The final component is your ship's countermeasures, and those impact how you disengage from fights and how you basically defend yourself and stay in the fight for longer. Some examples are seeker warheads that your ship fires behind you to take out incoming missiles, sort of like flares, or a sensor jammer to prevent missiles from being able to lock on, and these are described as the last-ditch efforts to survive a fight, so you have to use them wisely or you might not have them when you need them most. So they may have a longer recharge time so that you can't be spamming them to escape every single dogfight that you enter. You can only use it when you're right at the death, just about to die, to try and as a last-ditch attempt to survive. Passive ship components provide changes to the general performance of your engine, hull and shields, typically via percentage increases and decrease to your stats. The default loadout for your starfighter will be well balanced and won't have any major strengths or sacrifices made, but you can customize them and decide what you want to prioritize. There are also some additional bonuses, and the one mentioned here is that you can make your engine create a large explosion once you are defeated, which will then damage the enemy who has defeated you if they're quite close by. There are some more examples. There is one type of shield which is more resilient to blaster fire, but then as a trade-off is more vulnerable to missiles, while others will have completely different pros and cons, like taking longer to lock onto your ship when it has full shield, but that increases the time taken to regenerate your shields. And the same goes for your engine or your hull components, because increasing your hull strength of your starfighter will then reduce its maneuverability. So you have to choose which you want to prioritize and what's most important to you, and you'll only find out which is actually most important by playing the game and learning what's the best abilities. There is also a quote from the lead gameplay designer James Clement, and he said, "Between power management, overcharging, shield balancing, or emergency power conversion, boosting, drifting, throttle management, primary weapons, auxiliary abilities, and countermeasures, the combat piloting experience has significant depth. You can learn the ropes quickly, but you can look forward to discovering new techniques and tactics for months to come. On top of that, there's a wealth of customizable components to choose from, and there's a healthy selection to start with and more to unlock through gameplay as you progress. And now we move on to the cosmetic customization, because all 8 of your starfighters, Imperial or New Republic, they can all be customized. And when you start up, you'll have the traditional appearances of your pilots equipped. So your classic X-Wing orange flight suit for the New Republic and the black one for the Empire, and your pilot appearances will be used in both the single player story mode and the multiplayer modes, so you'll really feel like it is your own character being drawn across the entire game. In general, most cosmetics are unlocked via glory points that you earn by playing. Both pilots will have multiple heads to choose from between the factions, with the New Republic having non-human unlockable options as well. We've already seen Celestians and we've seen Trandoshans and quite a few other species already in trailers, and they also have different voice styles for you to choose. You'll be able to choose your pilot's heads, full body flight suits, torso apparel, legwear, helmets and gloves, and the team has sourced a ton of references from across Star Wars canon to ensure they're as authentic as possible while also introducing new things. So you could go for a really traditional look like you've seen in the movies and act out your fantasies, or you can go for something crazy and stand out in the briefing room. And the same goes for your starfighter. You could create a classic Red Squadron X-Wing, or you could just completely change your paint job and make it entirely unique to you. And the same goes for the Imperial fleet, which is quite interesting because while we have seen different colour patterns for the Resistance and the Republic, the only change we've really seen from TIE fighters is grey to black with a little bit of red on, so it'll be interesting to see how far you can customise your TIE fighters here. And as we'll have seen in the trailers, this includes our cockpits. You'll be able to add small knickknacks on your dashboard like a hologram of the galaxy or Darth Vader, or hang a small stormtrooper helmet from above. You could have an Ewok bobblehead, and there are lots of little options that you can decorate, and despite them being inside and you'd think maybe only viewable to you, your enemies will get to see them when they watch a kill cam of their own defeat. And while their single player story seats you in traditional cockpits for each mission, they're allowing players to have more creative liberties in the multiplayer experience. The example given here is a hanging red crystal from the Mines of Crate, which is of course from episode 8, and that was from an abandoned rebel outpost that hadn't been used for ages. So it might not make sense in the single player in the campaign, but on multiplayer they're letting you take liberties, and it gives them more creative freedom for making cosmetic items for us. Starfighters can customise their hull and their paint job and decals, which includes famous insignias like the Phoenix Squadron's Starbird, a cockpit hologram, dashboard miniatures and hanging flare, but you can also turn that off, as I mentioned in the last Star Wars Squadrons video. You can set it so that yourself and all of the enemies around you can have the default starfighter look if you really want to be immersed in the world of Star Wars. And finally, we have another quote from James Clement about the customization, and it reads, "The holo display, normally used to provide critical phase and objective information throughout the fleet battles, will double as a customizable image projector. There are also hanging flares like a miniature Millennium Falcon and dashboard mounted objects like a severed protocol droid head or an Ewok bobblehead. Then of course there are the ship exterior paint jobs and pilot avatar customizations, all made through the culmination of months of concept art, modelling and collaboration with the team at Lucasfilm." And that does it for this video. A little bit more information on your components, your abilities you'll be able to use, and how you'll be able to customize your starfighters as you progress through Star Wars Squadrons. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like. When the next batch of Star Wars Squadrons information comes out, of course I will report on it. The Marvel's Avengers beta for Xbox players who have pre-ordered it, such as myself, will start this weekend, so I'll have a ton of gameplay up for not just this weekend, but for many days after that, leading up to its release in less than a month now. So thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I will see you next time.